everybody.
Hi everybody.
Parashat Vayigash. In the previous parsha, Binyamin is being captured with Yosef's wine cup inside his bag. According to Yosef, whoever is being captured with the cup is going to be a slave and will stay in Egypt. The rest of the brothers can go. Based on that, Binyamin is supposed to stay as a slave. The brothers are going back to the palace. In this parsha, Parashat Vayigash, Yehuda approaches Yosef. He tells Yosef, of course he doesn't know that it is Yosef, and tells him that they did everything that Yosef asked them to do. He tells him that his brother Binyamin is the youngest one, and his brother passed away, and the soul of Binyamin is attached to his father's soul. And if something, God forbid, will happen to Binyamin, his father might die. Yehuda obligates to bring Binyamin back to his father. Yehuda sacrifices himself and offers himself as a slave, to stay as a slave to Yosef in order to save Binyamin.
The parasha starts with the word Vayigash, and in Hebrew, when we translate it, we say, and he approached. But the root, the shorish of the word Vayigash is nagash. And nagash is also the root of the word itnagshut, collision, banging one to another. And it doesn't really make sense, and we know by now that whenever it doesn't make sense, there's something hidden there. Why the Torah uses this word and not another word like v'pana elav, v'yikrav elav, like getting closer to him, or talk to him, diber elav, v'daber elav. So for that we need to go to the Midrash and also to the Zohar to really understand what's going on here.
The Midrash in Sefer HaYashar tells us that when Yehuda sees that Yosef is about to take Binyamin, he breaks the door, really slams into it. And Yehuda confronts Yosef, argues with him badly. Yosef accuses Yehuda for selling Yosef. Yosef shows himself like he's a sorcerer that knows everything. And Yehuda threatens Yosef and Egypt that he will destroy it. Yosef brings all the heroes of Egypt right away to be close to him. The brothers are getting scared, and Yehuda is telling his brothers, don't be afraid, God is with us. We're going to destroy Egypt right now. Yosef calms Yehuda down a little bit, and then he tells him again about selling of Yosef. I want to ask you a question. Why does Yehuda do all of that? Why does he put all of his brothers in danger? He doesn't know it's Yosef. Why Yehuda is the one that is approaching him and not any of the other brothers? Yehuda was the one that sold Yosef. Yehuda convinced his brothers to sell Yosef. Yehuda wants to take responsibility. Yehuda understands that he was wrong in selling Yosef, and that nothing like that should ever happen again. Yehuda takes full responsibility and doesn't want that any suffering that was made by him will happen again. And right here, Yehuda is actually becoming a king because he does what's right. He's doing tikkun, a correction. And he doesn't leave Yosef until he convinces him. After this, Yosef cannot hold himself. But you really think that the correction is done? The tikkun is done? After all of that, between Yosef and Yehuda, Yosef decides to reveal himself. He doesn't blame anybody. He doesn't run after honor. Yosef forgives and does not revenge. And just like that, everything flips. Not only that they didn't lose Binyamin, they also figured out and found out that Yosef is still alive, Yosef doesn't blame anybody. Yosef doesn't run after honor. Yosef forgives and does not revenge. Yosef takes full responsibility. And Yosef shows that there is a divine plan. Yosef says, "Lo atem shalachtem oti leMitzrayim ki im Hashem." Not you, my brothers, sent me to Egypt, but God.
Okay. And of course, after this powerful gathering, everything changes. And shortly after, Yosef gives all the brothers presents, and he gives Binyamin 5 times more presents. And he sends the brothers to bring Yaakov, the father, to Egypt with everyone else that were still in Israel. And, we have the beautiful meeting between Yaakov and Yosef and more things in the parasha. But we know that in the Torah, there are different levels, different layers. And we see a story about a family that went through a lot. But the Torah also teaches us about different things that happened. Those people, there were people, the Torah was given to people, and it doesn't hide all the mistakes and even all the sins. It shows people as people, because again, the Torah was given to people. We all make mistakes, but we have the ability to raise ourselves from the mud and even be kings and queens. We have the ability to do what we call in Hebrew tikkun, correction, to take responsibility, not to blame others, to take responsibility, to, do what we need in order to correct it. And what happened in this parasha is that Yehuda, in a way, tried to send away Yosef, because back then Yehuda was like the king over the brothers. And Yosef and what he represented at that time was not completely ready. Later on, when they meet now as Yosef is a king and Yehuda comes as a king, and we know that from the tribe of Yehuda, we're going to have later on King David. They come and they clash. And that clash is actually in the higher level. For that, we go to the Zohar to really see the secrets of what's going on here. It's a clash of 2 kingdoms. Shtei Malchuyot. The kingdom of the house of Yosef and the kingdom of the house of Yehuda, later on David, King David. And when they do that clash, something happened, because it's a clash that brings to unity. It's a clash of 2 that become later on 1. The kingdom of Yehuda represents one power, the power of holiness, of believing in the truth and going and doing that. The power of Yosef, if you go to the Sfirot, with all the correction that Yosef did in the world, he managed to correct the Sfirah of Yesod. Yesod is the pipe that brings and draw energy into our world. Yehuda, later on King David, he is the one that corrected the Sfirah of Malchut. Malchut is our physical world. And in our lives, we are the ones that can decide how much light, how much good, how much sustenance we can draw to our lives. If we're bitter, if we keep blaming others for everything, we block the sustenance from coming into our lives. But when we take responsibility, just like Yehuda, the Torah is giving us those examples to see. Yehuda did the most horrific thing, and still he was willing to sacrifice himself just to do a correction, just to not see his father again with a broken heart because of what's going to happen now to Binyamin. He just said, this is not the reality. I'm going to change it. I'm going to create a miracle. And a minute after, a miracle has been happening. Now, in this parasha, everything is so accurate, because once they meet, they become one. Later on, King David is connecting and combining those 2 energies together in him. He has the power of Yosef that has the ability to stay with no Yetzer Hara, with no ayin hara, with no evil eye, no evil urge, and know how to rule that part in him. He has also the ability to study Torah and to be very high in the Torah, like Yosef and Yehuda knew to do. He combines them, and that's the energy of the Mashiach, the Messiah that will come from the house of David, of King David. And in this parasha, there is the Haftarah, and the Haftarah is from the book of Ezekiel, and the verses, it's chapter Lamed Zayin, and the psukim, the verses are Tetvav to Kafchet, and it talks about the part that King David will reunite all the forces of those two kingdoms. And there's a story there about the wood. There's two woods that you write the names and you connect them into one. It's like a wood in Hebrew. The word they use there is etz. Etz is also a tree, and it's a tree of life. And there's many hidden, messages here. The bottom line is that we had all the tribes united, and then later on, because of one evil king, and actually other kings later that came after him, the kingdom split, and we had Malchut Yehuda, the kingdom of Yehuda, and then we had the one from Yosef and Ephraim, and his descendants, that was dividing the two kingdoms into the kingdom of Israel and the kingdom of Yehuda. Today, all over the world, we have the lost tribes, and their coming back is what's going to help us to bring the Mashiach, the Messiah, faster. And they're all over the world. So the kingdom of Yehuda, what we call Yehuda or Yehudim, the Jews, Judea, Jews, this is the one that stayed united. But there's many others out there that are a part of the nation of Israel. They're the part of the Israelites. And they have to come back. Now, this is, another thing in this parasha is that to approach is actually to come closer. We all need to come closer to the light of Hashem. We need to want to get closer to Hashem. And how do we do that? We check our actions. If we are giving, if we are sharing, if we are doing good things, we can get closer to the light and further away from anger, from bitterness, from negativity. This is with our actions. We can really take the active, we're here to be active, not passive. We're not walking in this world, like the Greek mythology that just, the gods are hitting us. No, we have one God, and He's inside each and every one of us. And we need to take the action. We need to be active, proactive, and approach the light. Connect to God with keeping kosher, with keeping Shabbat, with doing all the mitzvot that we need to do to get closer, with being kind to people, with loving people, with caring for this whole world. Look at us today. Look what's happening around us. We all became slaves again. Why? Everything that's happening, even Corona, the universe stopped and made us rethink what's happening. Instead of running the hamster inside the wheel, like just running to nowhere, being a slave to so many things. Stop. This is not what we came to do in this world. Hashem brought us to be free people. This is our time. And another thing I want to add is that we know about the part that Yosef is giving the brothers gifts. Everything again is accurate. He gives Binyamin 5 times more gifts. The Zohar explains, and the Midrash explains, that those gifts were actually the power, special strength that Yosef is putting in the tribe of Binyamin for later on, that in the story of the book of Esther, the story that Mordechai, the Jew, had to confront Haman in Persia, and he refused to bow, and he fought against him. He was using the power of Yosef HaTzadik, Yosef the righteous, that was a kingdom, it was a king over negativity. And he managed to flip again the story completely, and to help to make miracles for all the Jewish nation. But we'll talk about that another time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.